if I can say, like, if I died tomorrow, I don't know if I would have regrets. I don't know. I am thankful for my life, but I still feel like I know I got more. I want this time.
I remember my one son saying, "Dad, as long as you are genuine, I will have your back." From that moment forward, I made that commitment. I was going to be genuine, and I was going to be vulnerable, and I was going to be open in everything that I did.
Welcome to the Rethreading Lives podcast, where we talk about how to take your threads of harm and through the rethreaded process, transform them into something that actually helps you reach your potential. We'll talk with different leaders in our city and our country and find out what they're doing. You'll walk away from listening to this podcast with useful insights and captivating stories on how you yourself can rethread your life and your business. I'm Kristen Keene, and this is the Rethreading Lives podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rethreading Lives. I am very excited for today's guest, Michael Holand. Michael Holand is the president and CEO of the Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center. And I actually don't know how we first met. I just know that we see each other everywhere. And I mean, for years and years and years, we've seen each other everywhere. I think there's a mutual respect of leadership in the nonprofit world. We were in the CEO Confidential together. And most recently, I'm so excited because Michael took the rethreading process training. So he's actually the only guest ever on the show so far that has been through the rethreaded process training, which was at the Nonprofit Center. It's an hour-and-a-half training on everything we talk about here. So I'm so excited that he is our guest today. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. And I think one of the places that we saw each other some was through Leadership Jacksonville as well.
What class were you?
I was 2012, but then I stayed involved in putting the program together.
Yeah. And I was 16 and I love it. That's so funny. I still love my classmates. Like, we still see each other. I love that organization. Okay. So let's dive in. So tell us a little bit about your life now. When I read your resume, I was like, holy cow. I mean, I had no idea the extent of your career. And then when we talked on the phone, I learned more. I was like, this is going to be a good one.
Well, I truly have been blessed to have some wonderful opportunities along the way to be in a number of different cultures and multiple cities and just have some great experience. So I'm really grateful for that. Today, I am actually in my last year of leading Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, which has been a wonderful journey. It's our 75th year of service to the Northeast Florida community. It's also my 10th year as CEO, and it's longer than I've actually served in any other single position in my career, but it's certainly it's a love. So in terms of extracurriculars, I stay involved with Leadership Jacksonville and helping to lead the strategic plan for the future of Leadership Jacksonville. And I serve on a board of a financial literacy organization called the Five Buckets Foundation. And then personally, I am thrilled that I have one of my three children in Jacksonville and all three of my grandchildren in Jacksonville. So I get to spend a lot of time going to baseball games and soccer games on weekends, and that's terrific. And then to make as much time as I can to go up to visit my daughter in Atlanta or my son in Indianapolis. We went to the Colts Jags opener and fought each other, and went to Smashing Pumpkins concert. And so we try to create those fun opportunities. And then the other part of my life really is trying to stay healthy and my relationship with God. And I'm an active member of the Church of 22 and in a disciple group with all individuals that are about 30 years younger than me. So
that's great.
And I just learn a lot from them.
That's great. I'm sure it's vice versa too.
I think I learn more from them.
So it sounds like your family is super important to you. And This is when we were talking. Maybe you can walk us a little bit through your career. Like you've done some really interesting things that I feel like relate directly to the Rethreaded process and kind of how you operate and what you've done and what your experience is.
Sure. Well, I came out of law school and grad school,
I actually
and
didn't, I forgot you were a lawyer.
yeah, so I passed the DC
That's right.
bar, did a little bit of administrative work for the federal government, which was very boring. But ultimately, I was in a presidential management intern program and ended up being the state and local affairs branch head for the Small Business Administration and the Office of the Chief Counsel for Advocacy. The nation was really just discovering that it's small businesses, not big businesses, that were driving the economy and creating jobs. And I had this fabulous opportunity to provide education, if you will, for groups like the National Governors Association and U.S. Conference of Mayors and National Council of State Legislatures. So actually seeing some of the things that I wrote get enacted into law. So that was kind of fun.
So cool.
And then I actually had the opportunity to lead the Small Business Administration in San Francisco, first for all of Northern California, and then for the region, which is all the Western states and Guam and the Trust Territories and everything else. And it was both, the opportunity to help people realize their dreams of creating their own businesses, or in the case of disasters, which I saw a number of while I was out in California, to rebuild their lives. People don't know this, but SBA is actually the biggest provider of relief in a disaster. It's homes, it's businesses, it's nonprofits, it's everything. So, there was a joke that every time I was the regional director of the Small Business Administration, which I did under both Bush 41 and under Clinton, there was a major earthquake. So went through both Loma Prieta, which I lived through at the World Series at Candlestick Park, and then the Northridge earthquake. But it really was just awesome to see businesses out in the community that you knew that you had a part in helping along the way, and to see them giving back to the community. It was fabulous. From there, I went on to lead several associations of national charities and helping them to raise money for their missions and to help the people that they were serving. And then I did that both in San Francisco and in Washington. And then I was recruited to lead the ARC of Greater Indianapolis, which was also known as Noble of Indiana. And that was just a fabulous experience to be a champion for individuals with intellectual differences, and also just to, look for ways to help them live more meaningful lives. Just tremendous. If it weren't for the Indianapolis weather, I might still be there because I really loved the cause. And then I went from there to the Southeastern Council the Southeastern Conference of Foundations based in Atlanta. It's 13 states of foundations, 350 foundations. It's now known today as Philanthropy Southeast, and to be basically a voice for philanthropy in the Southeast. And I had stayed really involved with Jacksonville University, starting with my 25th reunion, and then chairing the alumni board and serving on the board of trustees. And ultimately, I was asked to come back and lead the fundraising and alumni relations at JU, and from there to Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center. And I was really attracted to that mission in part because when I first heard about it, and I had never heard of Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, but I thought about my 3-year-old grandson at the time, and the fact that, where would he go if he didn't have this wonderful TRICARE insurance? Because he had some ear problems at the time. And it was Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center. And I looked on their website, and I got a virus warning. And so I was really kind of intrigued by the challenge of this organization. And it turned out they were, I didn't know it at the time, but the previous executive director had recommended that they close due to financial unsustainability. And I decided to take up that challenge.
So you came.
Yeah.
You came and over the past 10 years turned it around.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. At first we're really in a survival mode, and my aspiration at that time was, gosh, if we could have one location where the roof didn't leak. And now my aspiration, 9.5 years later, is I I hope that we can have the resources so that every child in Northeast Florida can get the preschool screenings that they need in terms of both speech and hearing, and that we can give them the speech therapy or the hearing solutions that they need so that when they start kindergarten, they're able to communicate with their kindergarten peers and with their teachers. They're ready to succeed in school and life. They're better equipped to read, and there's a lot less chance they're going to fall by the wayside in school.
Amen. I think you're pretty close to achieving that.
Well, right now we have funding to cover 40 preschools, and we have over 100 more on our waiting list. So,
Golly.
I'm not giving up on that. I think there is a better person, quite honestly, to lead us forward. That's one of the things I think we as leaders have to recognize, that it may not be us that get to attain that ultimate vision, but I'm going to continue to be a champion.
So, um, I have a question first to start with. So, at the conference, at the uh, nonprofit center conference,
Yeah.
there was like all these choices you could have gone to. What made you curious about going to the Rethreaded process one?
Kristen, honestly, it was you. um, I see you as this incredible visionary, which you are, and I see the fabulous work that you have done and the incredible way that you're changing lives. And I wanted to learn more about how you did it, so that's why I showed up.
I was not expecting that, but
But it's true.
thank you. Thank you. And then as we went through the Rethreaded process, I mean, that was the first time ever publicly. So it's also keeps getting developed. And what are some of the things that you learned?
Well, I learned, it really helped me to capture some of the things I guess I knew about myself, but that whole notion of purpose. I feel like my life has the purpose in my life has been to help people overcome challenges, to make the most of their abilities, and to realize their dreams. And so it gave me some time to pause and reflect about that. But it was kind of looking at the ducks and the yucks that really kind of made me have to think and to really dig deep about some of the things that I'm not all that proud about.
Well, let me give the context for this a little bit because so part of the Rethreaded training is we talk about we all have our yuck ducks and our yay ducks. And really what the Rethreaded process is being able to hold the yuck and the yay together because it's the paradox of life, the pair of ducks of life. So we had everyone talk about what were some of their yay ducks and then also what were some of the yuck ducks. So yeah, I love that part. That was actually, when I heard that analogy, that kind of changed my life too. The double ducks. And I love that it made you get honest. No one likes to be honest, really. I don't like to be honest that much. So I love that it made you be honest. Is there anything do I need to probe there?
Well, no,
I was like,
I will tell you that, as I think back to it, I really went through 1920, was a couple of years that were very challenging for me. Of course, COVID was in there, but my marriage came to an end, and especially during COVID, I just spent a lot of time in some deep introspection and everything, and had to admit that, while I might have wanted to cast blame in a lot of different places, that really I needed to do a much better job and accept responsibility for the turmoil that I had caused, and um, the fact that I had not made everybody's lives as great as I thought I was making them, and that was a real eye opener, and when we had that class that day, it really caused me to reflect on that.
Mm.
I always thought that I was a great father, and I came to realize in that period that I was very me centric,
Mm.
and that fact that I thought we were moving all over for these great opportunities and living in great cities, and I was showing my kids the value of new places to live and teaching them to be independent and everything else. And then I came to realize that they would have liked to have stayed in some of those places and made lifelong friends. And I see it in my son now, who's in this year's leadership Jacksonville class. He's a Navy officer, but he's decided to put down roots in Jacksonville. So, um, but I had to take responsibility for that. And, I also came to realize that my kids didn't really know me. I mean, yeah, I was their dad, um, but they saw me as somebody who was really um, a CEO and somebody that was really involved in serving the community. And they thought all that was great. But what came out of all that is I realized um, that I had no, they just did not see me as being genuine and vulnerable.
Mm.
And that was huge. So that's something that, I really worked hard for a couple of years on myself. And I'm happy to say that now I have the best relationship with my children, all three of them, individually and collectively, that I've had in my life. But I look back and see that I had a very me-centric life for a long time.
Can you talk a little bit about when you said, I mean, I think there's so many people who can relate to this, you know? Um, when you said you took responsibility, what did that look like? Did that look like hard conversations? I mean, like, what did that look like?
Yeah, very, very, very difficult conversations. Like, uh, and I just said, okay, it's time. I'm going to be completely honest. I remember my one son saying, "Dad, as long as you are genuine, I will have your back." And from that moment forward, I made that commitment. I was going to be genuine, and I was going to be vulnerable, and I was going to be open in everything that I did. And I I'm I'm happy to have gone through that process because my life is much better as a result.
I mean, it is the rethreaded process.
So and then another thing that happened in that same 2 year period, Kristen, was that um, you know I went in to have my wisdom teeth um, taken out in 2019, and when I went in, the um, uh, the doctor said, we're going to get to your teeth, but what's wrong with your heart? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, your blood pressure is off the chart. You never had that? I said, no. And he said, we'll check it again. And sure enough, it was. And that led me to go to have an echo and stress test and all of that. And they said, your heart is not good, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. And I said, well, am I going to have surgery? And they said, no, this will give us a benchmark, come back in a year. Well, I knew something was wrong. So I really dedicated myself to getting in the best possible shape that I could. I gave up red meat. I gave up drinking. I gave up, just made an effort to eat healthier and to exercise like crazy. It's really when I took up swimming and I went back a year later, and they said, you know, you're healthier, but your heart is worse. And so ultimately, to make a long story short, Mayo, after a lot of tests, told me that I had a very, very rare disease called amyloidosis. In fact, cardiac amyloidosis. And what happens is your liver is sending proteins that don't come together, and they get deposited in an organ. In my case, my heart. And so, they said there's a new drug that was approved by the FDA last year, and they said with that you should have a good 5-6 years to live. Now, in retrospect, what they didn't tell me at the time was that most of the people that were on this brand new drug had probably had this disease for a lot longer than me. But they said 5 to 6 years. 3.5 years later, I'm in better shape than I was 3.5 years ago, and they said that it's right now it's not progressing. So I just have to continue to lead a really healthy life and hope that medical research is so great that one of these days they're going to come up with a cure. But I just made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to let it define me, and that I was really blessed to have this disease for God's glory, and that God has me one way or the other. And if I die tomorrow, I'll live a great life. I've lived a great life, and I'm very happy about it. And I know that I'll go to an even better place. But it's that's been part of my journey as well.
Okay. We're going to have to unpack this. Okay. First of all, thank you for sharing. So I just need a little bit of chronological order.
Yeah.
So did you get divorced before COVID?
Yes.
So divorce,
Yes.
COVID,
Yes.
and then diagnosis.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And you talk about in the class, you talked about full circle moments. Yeah. For me, it was that as a JU student, I went and did microfiche research in the bottom of the old Burns at the Hayden Burns Library. It's now the Jesse Ball DuPont Center. My office is in the lower level where I did microfiche research. When my wife and I split up, I lived at 11 East, and I was exactly, and I mean exactly, one floor above where I had worked for a law firm while I was going to JU. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more full circle than that.
So what of those three things started the process with your family, with your kids?
Well, I think it was my wife and I splitting up. Mm-hmm. That really started it. And it really started us after a while to have some really deep conversations. And it all just so happened so much together. It's almost hard to pull them apart. Mm-hmm. But it was a challenging period. But I look back on it now, and it really, like I said, led to some real self-discovery and just a commitment in terms of going forward. Just that I was going to live every day, trying to live out that purpose of serving others and helping people to make the most of their abilities, and that included more time with children and grandchildren and everything else.
So let's do this then. Pre these experiences, you have this idea of purpose, and then you have this idea of purpose post all these experiences. What was the difference?
I mean, because
you've always served.
Yeah. So going back to when I was about 12 years old, I was my first volunteer experience was actually patterning a young girl who lived across the street and moving her arms and legs to develop the motions and everything else. And my father really and mother instilled in me that whole notion of giving back. So that service was always there, and that really didn't change as much when I went through all this, as it just reaffirmed that I wanted to live every day to the fullest. look at every day as an opportunity to make somebody's life or somebody's lives better. And I just really recommitted myself to that.
So it's almost, it created intentionality, a
Yes.
different sort of
Yeah,
intentionality.
absolutely.
Um, so when you got the news, I mean, what was your reaction? Like, what were kind of the stages as you walk through this?
Shock was first. Shock was first, and then probably fear, some fear, and then just educate myself as much as possible about the disease. And you know, I still think it's really. I'm happy to have this opportunity to share that people that know they have heart issues but can't figure it out, ask to be tested for amyloidosis, because it is the most undiagnosed, misdiagnosed heart ailment out there. And so, really important. But yeah, so it was really education, and then it was like, um, God has got me, and I know that, and I am really here to glorify Him, and so that's really it.
So when you say God's got you, what does that mean? And what does that mean when you say, I'm here to glorify God? Like, what does that mean
Well,
practically?
what it means is that it means basically, to me, it means doing what the Bible would tell me to do in a particular instance, and to continue to study that word and to learn more and more, and then to live my life um, to the extent possible in a way that is pleasing to God, and you know, while also recognizing that He has died on the cross for me personally, and that I am going to have everlasting life. But I also, like I said, I when that happens, I will have absolutely uh, no regrets. I have had such a fabulous life, so many incredible opportunities to do so many things, to serve in so many ways, and I just, I'm filled with gratitude for the life that I have been able to lead.
I can't remember did we do a time exercise? No.
No, I
Okay.
don't think we had time. I don't think
Time
we
to
had
do
time to do
time.
time.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
That's what I thought happened. So in the rethreaded process, time is your currency to heal. It's our limited resource. We are going to run out. We are all going to die. However, a majority of people, including myself, it's kind of like theoretical. Like, I know one day my time's going to end.
Mhm.
We're going to run out. So I don't necessarily, right now, if I can say, like, if I died tomorrow, I don't know if I would have regrets. I don't know. I am thankful for my life, but I still feel like I know I got more. Like, I want this time.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I want this time.
I know, but that's what I was going to say. What does it do to you when you can look forward and be like, I know that my time, like, now it is a reality in your life. Your time is going to end. Like,
Mhm.
how have you cultivated that into thankfulness? And I want to hear more, like, I want that time. Like, what now is your relationship with time now that you have this?
Yeah, so I want to be able to see that vision through of every child in Northeast Florida
Mm.
getting that screening and getting that help. But on a personal life, I want to see my kids and my grandkids just continue to do great things. I am so proud of all of them, and I want to be part of my daughter's wedding when the time comes, and I want to see my grandkids graduating from high school and going on to college, and being that they're just starting junior high, they got a ways to go, So there's all those things, and I want to have just create some more. memories for all of them that they can take forward.
So, how do you see time differently now?
Well, first of all, I look at every day as a gift. There's just no two ways about it, and that really started with amyloidosis diagnosis. But I have over the last 4 months lost three very close friends, all of whom I expected to die long before, and that has just reaffirmed that you've got to seize the opportunities, and that includes the opportunities to tell people that you love them or that they've made an impact on your life. I just think that's so important, and so I'm trying to do a lot more of that.
Does it feel, I'm just asking all my honesty questions. Does it feel panicky? Like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have enough time?
No, it
No.
really doesn't. I really have a sense of peace about it.
Mm.
Um, and I think that really does go back to the fact that, I know that I'm either going to continue to be able to do these things, or that I'm going to go to an even better life with God. And so I really do feel a sense of incredible peace.
So, have you said everything to your family? I mean, have you almost like said goodbye just in case? I mean, how does that look in your life?
No, I really haven't said goodbye, but I am cherishing every opportunity I have to spend quality time with them, and it's really fun for me right now to see my oldest son in Leadership Jacksonville and doing all these things in the community, and to get to hear stories about these funny things that he has done and everything else. And I recently got to go see him speak to the lawyers roundtable, and that's tremendous. But I don't miss the opportunity to tell them how much I love them.
Mm. So that's a change. Is that a change?
Yeah, it really is. Um, yes. I mean, I won't say that I wasn't like this cold hard dad that never said I love you to my
Right. I
kids,
can't imagine.
but I think that they sense that it is far more genuine, maybe.
Mm. Mm.
So,
From a deeper place, a
yeah,
different place,
from a
vulnerable
deeper
place.
place. Yeah, exactly.
Mm. I know my grandma, my aunt recently passed 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, of cancer. And, she had the diagnosis and she had, months to live.
Yeah.
We all went out there and um, we were all able to be there with her. And she also had this great peace about her. It was all of us around her that were
Yeah.
like dealing with it and struggling it. And she just had this such peace with her relationship with time and God. And she asked, I mean, to the point where she like asked each of us, what do you want me to do to help you make through this? So I have like this crystal that I wanted her to hold, and I keep that in my house. And my uncle wanted him to call her phone and leave a voicemail so he could hear her voice. And she was, even in her leaving us, she was so full of love and so full of intentionality. I mean, I learned so much from her and the way that she left this world. Yeah, it was amazing. But I still don't understand fully her peace, no peace, no fear. Just, I did the thing and
Yeah.
going on.
I mean, I do feel that way today. I really do. That isn't what I felt when I first was diagnosed,
Yeah.
but I am definitely in that place today. And I think who knows with the tremendous advances
Mhm.
in medical research. I know they're working on the drug that I'm on slows down the disease, but I know that they're working on drugs that are going to knock it out and maybe even take out some of the damaging proteins. So my objective is to stay healthy long enough till they do that, and then hope that I can afford the cure.
So you're at the place. Can I summarize where you're like, I want this time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be intentional with this time. But if I run out of time, I'm also going to be okay.
That's exactly right.
The yuck and the yay.
Yep.
Holding it well.
Trying.
What other insights are you gaining through all of this? Do you have any?
I think, it's not that I've gained any more real insights through this. A lot of the lessons that I've learned, I think I've learned along the way. And I'm just going to give you an example. Right before I became the director of SBA in San Francisco, I went and heard a speech by a guy named General John Stanford, and he was at the Presidio, and he said his whole philosophy about leadership is love them and lead them, love your employees and lead them. And I always tried to live that. And I also looked at his example that he sent. He went from there to being like CEO of Boy Scouts of America and Fulton County executive and head of Seattle School District. And the lesson there is, I think that that if you're a great leader, you can adapt that leadership to different environments and different cultures. But I'm incredibly blessed to have had mentors and people that I looked up to along the way like that.
Because love translates.
Love translates, and I've tried to do that all the way along. And in terms of being a CEO, this, Kristen. All you got to do is hire a great staff and recruit a great board.
Yeah.
And allow them to do the things that they do great. Make sure that that everybody is, they talk about getting the right people on the bus, but it's in a nonprofit a little more challenging because you got to get a nonprofit board and a staff on the bus, and then make sure that they're all reading off the same map that you are hopefully charting the course for.
Who have been your mentors along the way?
Gosh, I've had, I look at, John Stanford was a great one. Erskine Bowles, when he was the administrator of the Small Business Administration, and he went on to be President Clinton's chief of staff. But I just absolutely loved his style of leadership. I mean, he came in and he said the lending community said we cannot do small loans. You cannot do small loans. Within about 8 months, we were doing $50,000 loans, and then ultimately micro loans after that. And I just loved his undefeatable attitude and that spirit that he conveyed. And I used to you would send him a message or something like that, and he would often print off your email and just write "great idea, E," and send it back. And it was just, I really embraced that leadership. Probably of all the leaders I worked for in my life, I would put him at number one.
Number one. Is he still?
He's I think, I don't know that he's retired. He went back to being in the kind of the mergers and acquisition world from which he came. He ran for Senate in North Carolina and unfortunately was not elected, but just tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
Do you remember in the Rethreaded process who you wrote your thank you note to?
Yeah, I wrote it to my son, Chris.
Hold on. So in the Rethreaded process, I'm giving away all my secrets if you're going to take the training, but we talk about community, and these are the people that love you, that help you, encourage you, and then hold you accountable to be who you're created to be. And there's people who stick with you through it. And we have part of that is like, let's write them a thank you note right now.
Yes, I wrote it to my son, Chris, and if he is listening to it and says, gosh, I'm not sure I got that note. Chris, I promise you it was written.
But not delivered.
But he is,
Michael, that's part of the homework.
I know. I do believe I can find that letter.
Okay.
So I will make sure that he gets it.
Why him?
Because I felt like, when I was going through all these issues, he was the one that was there. He was the one that I think in a lot of ways really prompted me to be 100% more open and vulnerable. And as a result, we have this fabulous relationship today. And I just, I love all of my kids, and I'm so proud of them. But when I look at who really pushed me to be a better person, it was him.
What stopped you from being vulnerable in the past?
That's a great question. I'm not, and probably I need to do a lot more self-exploration around that whole topic. But I think about it, and as a leader, I think I was really always open with my team and everything. I'm just not sure I was as open about everything else. And but I'll have to think about that one a little bit more.
Well, yeah, get back to us.
Yeah, I will.
Well, maybe we'll do like an add-on segment. Michael comes back and explains vulnerability to us.
Well,
but I also think vulnerability is, this sounds so funny, like a newer concept though. Like in a
lot of ways.
Yeah. In leadership, I feel like vulnerability, and in relationships is like, I feel like in the past 10 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Starting to be talked about and valued and taught how do you be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that word was ever used, especially in the business world or leadership world, me growing up.
Yeah. I would agree 100%.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah. I think marriage was different. Relationships are different. I think all this stuff is kind of new. And I don't know if there's a difference between men and women, but vulnerability can look different, or it's built into us differently, I think, sometimes as men and women.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm. I'm naturally vulnerable with my girlfriends. Just all over each other. But I think that's harder sometimes in the world of men. And then you put vulnerability in business, and it's a weird world, I think, to navigate vulnerability in. I don't know. What do you think vulnerability in business looks like?
I think it's really being honest with your employees about yourself as a leader, as well as what you want for the organization. And I think that's I think that's a challenge for a lot of people. Because I think that we've been taught, or at least we were taught in the early days, to keep business and personal separate. Mm-hmm. And now I think there's like you said, there's a lot more expectation that we have vulnerability in our leaders.
Is that? I'm in the nonprofit world, and I've been in the nonprofit world for most of my career, and I don't know how the business world is now.
Well,
yeah,
and I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I've really been 10 years out too.
I've been in the government world and the nonprofit world, and so yeah, I'd be interested to know what it's like in the corporate world as well. Maybe you can ask your future guests from the corporate world.
Okay, how vulnerability looks.
Yes.
Well, how is government vulnerable?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. We don't need to get into that today.
Okay, deal. But what I would like to discuss with you a little bit is your friends that have recently passed away. I know that we started to talk about them, and we have one in common.
Yes.
I'm Sarah Rocco. She's like a powerhouse of life. And she kind of embodied the Rethreaded process.
She most certainly did. Her story is one of just rising from a very difficult early personal life and just making that decision that she wanted a better life for herself and her children, and that it was so important that she give her children a different life. And she saw real estate as the way to do that. And gosh, what does she do? She builds a real estate firm that's in the top 1% nationally, number 3 on last year's Jacksonville Business Journal list. And we all know, how she was really blossoming in terms of her community leadership, which really was, Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center was very, very blessed to be the beneficiary of Sarah's first board role.
It was her first board
It was
role.
her first board role. I remember she called me. She had been my real estate agent, and she called me on a Saturday morning, apologetically saying, I lost hearing in one ear overnight, and I don't know what to do." And I connected her with an ENT on our board of directors, who on that Monday morning just took Sarah before all of her other patients, and Sarah ultimately recovered 90% of her hearing loss. And she said to me, "Mike, how can I give back? I want to give back. I had no idea what it was like not to be able to hear." And I asked her if she had ever served on a board, and she said no. She said, "But I'd like to, but I'm looking at your board roster, and gosh, I don't know that I belong here." And I said, "Sarah, you belong there." Yeah. And I did it with much enthusiasm because I had gotten to know enough of Sarah's personality to know that she was going to jump in all the way. And she absolutely did that. And it was in no time that she won over the board. They saw her authenticity. They saw that can-do spirit and her business savvy and everything else. And she was co-chairing our development committee, and then putting FinFest together, our big annual premier fundraiser. And then she chaired our gala last fall. She was a leader, and she was on her way to ultimately probably being the chair of our board.
And I just want to, for listeners, Sarah Rocco she recently passed. She was killed in a car accident. I don't even know how old she was.
39.
She's only 39 years old.
Yes.
She has 5 children.
3 children.
3 children.
Including one who is 21 and already graduated with an MBA from the University of Florida. So that gives you the idea of the values that she has instilled in her children, and the dreams that she had for those children.
Yeah, 3 children. She did an Ironman.
Oh, yeah. Did an Ironman, went to Cumberland Island and slept out in nature on her own. Just an amazing person, always looking to both improve her own life and the lives of her children, but also the lives of everybody around her, whether it was her Rocco Group family or, just people that she would meet along the way. And the indelible mark that she made on her leadership Jacksonville class in just 5 months was just incredible.
She was 39. I didn't know that.
Taken from us way too soon.
And what are you gleaming from this whole thing?
We don't know God's purpose. We can't. But I know one thing, and that's that I know that Sarah would want us all to serve and lead and love in the same spirit that she did. And I think that's our challenge. the fact that there were 750 RSVPs for her celebration of life the day after it went online just gives you an indication of how much she was in love, so much how much she was loved, and how much she affected the lives of so many people. I think one of the things that I'm most proud about as a leader over the course of my 44-year career is just the number of individuals that I have coached and mentored that have gone on to leadership roles of their own, either in the government or in the nonprofit world. And I part of it is discerning leadership ability in others where they may not be aware that they even have that leadership ability. And I think about this fabulous woman that I worked with at the Arc of Greater Indianapolis or Noble. And 2 weeks after I got on the job, I said to both her and to the CFO, I said, would you like to be a CEO one day? And of course, their immediate reaction is, you just got here. What's going on? But, I, I said to her, I said, um, the fact is you've worked here for 18 years. Your brother is served by this organization. Wouldn't you want the opportunity if I was hit by a bus to lead this organization? And what about, they, she and her husband lost a son to huffing. And then they were really involved in like the Partnership for Drug Free America and other things. And I said, wouldn't you want to be in a position that if they were looking for a CEO, that you were ready to do that? And she looked at me and she said, well, yeah, maybe. And to make a long story short, she ultimately left us to become the CEO of the Indiana Association of Foundations. We ultimately ended up being board members together on a national level. So it's just absolutely crazy. But
So what did you see in her?
I saw somebody that was one very very organized, very charismatic, uh, very committed to the mission, and I had I I had just this innate belief that with exposure to some additional things that she could go into that role. And I saw the same things in the woman who's going to replace me as CEO. She just blossomed during COVID. She was doing all sorts of innovative things. And I remember the first time I raised that issue of her potentially succeeding me. And she was like, I don't want to be a CEO. Well, you know what? She's going to be a fantastic CEO. She's going to take Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center to new heights and serve so many more thousands of people. And it's going to be fantastic.
Maybe she's going to be the one to take your vision and own it
Yeah.
and finish it through.
And then add a vision of her own.
Mm. So what do you think makes a good CEO then?
First and foremost, I think you have to love people. Mm. Secondly, you have to be able to, you need to have at least a basic understanding at the very start of what drives the organization, be it a corporation or a nonprofit, and to really learn the ins and outs. I think you have to, like I said, so much of it is people and selecting the right people, both for a board or for a staff. And I think you have to know how you make those decisions best. For me, I am incredibly intuitive when it comes to hiring and people. And the only regrets I think that I've really ever had as a CEO were when I went outside of what my intuition told me to do. And yeah, I realize that's different for everybody. So that's just something that worked for me. So that I think is important. I think leading by example in every sense, whether it be, work ethic, ethical compass, not being above, going and making the coffee, and those little things that I think will earn the respect of employees. It's being willing to admit when you've made mistakes, and it's allowing others to make mistakes and to learn from them, helping them to learn from them, giving people opportunities to uh, lead in small ways, and just giving people just more and more responsibility as they demonstrate the ability to handle things. I think those are all important. And you've got to be willing as a CEO. You've got to be the rainmaker for the organization. That's something that I look at you as just the best model. In that regard, in terms of being a rainmaker for the organization. But you have to get out and you have to build the relationships and the partnerships, and cultivate that emotional connection with your organization, and get people vested. I think that's all important.
And as you're like going through this list of what makes a good CEO, I've just been thinking about me as a CEO. And I do believe that I am a connector. I'm so passionate about what I do, but I'm also, I mean, I was just talking to two other founders today, and um we're the drivers. We jump into stuff and we start it and we drive it forward, and then probably 3 years in, um everyone around you is really tired. And I'm still driving them because I am not that organized, and I don't get provide structure in my CEO. But that's when Jason, my cohort, came about 4 years into the journey of Rethreaded, and started off as operations manager, and now he's a COO. But um I actually don't know if I'm and I've had to learn how to love people, because I feel like when I was starting Rethreaded and I was figuring it all out, I had so much anxiety and I was so driven and I was so that I don't I would just run over people in my days, because I'm a very that's why I love your fascination with time now, because I'm just in general, I'm working really hard to change, but always in a hurry, always impatient, always too much to do, always so much pressure all the time with my time. Um, and now that I'm 13 years in, I have a staff that's amazing. I've gone on sabbatical, but like, I think in leadership, part of what I've found is holding space, learning how to manage your own life so you can hold space for the people in your life. And I watch founders. I mentor a lot of founders as well, and we have a really hard time, especially, I mean, holding space at the beginning, to love people well, to slow down and take the time to invest and be intentional, which is why I love it when I think what you're teaching right now, and then what you're teaching through this experience with having limited time, is it's every day. Your gift is the people around you.
It is absolutely.
That's it.
Yep.
I mean, that's it. And like all the stuff around, no matter what it is, no matter you're starting a business, you're in a business, you're in a marriage, you're in a family, like it's creating space for the people around you that day.
No question about it.
Yeah. And how that sounds really easy. And it is kind of the crux of all of life, right?
Yep.
To learn how to do that.
Yeah. So you've had this wonderful entrepreneurial experience starting up Rethreaded
Yeah.
and everything. One of the things that I've experienced, I've led, like had responsibility for a government agency with about 500 people at one time. But I also, in one experience, had to really start an organization from scratch. I was the first employee. And, those were such vastly different experiences. And I think
Yes.
I think it's really always important. One of the things I didn't mention about what makes a great CEO is I think you really have to select people around you that have the strengths that you do not have.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
something that I learned early on back in my government days and that I've carried through to today. But the challenge in, when you start an organization from scratch is, when you're first starting your second hire, you want somebody that can do a whole lot of things. And then as you grow and you're up to like 13 people, then you really need people that can take responsibility for a bunch of different areas, right? So it's just such a different experience.
Yeah. And because the first person I hired, before I hired anyone else, I mean, literally, before I had a survivor, before I hired anyone else, I hired a bookkeeper because I knew I will take this company down quicker than I start it if I don't have at least a
Yeah.
bookkeeper
Yeah.
that's here with me. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, once we got to 13 people. Oh, but honestly, if I had to like do it again, I don't know if I would do it again. I mean, or like could do it again or want to, or maybe I would just do it so
Do it differently.
differently. Yeah. And take all my lessons and maybe I could do it again. But man, I used to just wake up in panics. Oh, I was just thinking about this the other day. Rethreaded was like a year old. We had, at the very beginning, we had a kids line, and the kids line failed, like failed, failed. Like we couldn't even give away the clothes. We ended up having to like donate to Goodwills and stuff. We had all these children's clothes made out of t-shirts. And I remember I locked myself in the office and I was like, well, I got a decision to make. What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. And I remember considering closing down the production side and just keeping the retail. And I was like, and then we could hire probably 2 women and maybe we could expand it to 5. And I remember I was like, but that's not enough. And figuring out the formula. And then the gray scarf happened and navigating that early years of that. I don't want to do that again by myself. So did you like the startup or do you like the?
I really did. I really did like it. And, it was really fun, and it was fun to watch it grow. We started out with 44 charities and raising like $4 million, and then it grew it to.
Hold on. Let's just get this clear. When you had a startup, you started with $4 million.
No. We started with 4 charities that we were helping to raise 4 million. Yeah, I wish. It's really funny.
I was like, we definitely have different stories, Michael.
You and I have a mutual friend, and I won't call him out publicly, but when he told me he was going to start a nonprofit and that he had $2 million to start the nonprofit, I was like, wow. Where has this been my whole life, right?
Yeah,
so I mean,
I was like, oh my gosh, $27,000 in the bank, and I thought, it might have been it should. I mean, in my mind, that was like millions at that point.
Yeah. When I got to Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, they had just had the electricity turned off. So,
oh my
gosh. I mean,
so you basically that's harder than a startup.
Well,
because you're starting from negative. At least in a startup, you're starting from 0. I mean, that's impressive.
Had a lot of help. That's
Amen.
that's what it's all about.
It's a community, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, you hire great staff, hire a great board, let them do their things.
I mean, it's my board. Yeah. One of my friends said to me, if I have to feed you every day for the next 3 years at dinner, I'll feed you every single day.
That is a great board member.
Yes, it was a great board member. She's still around with us today. It's good.
Terrific.
Yeah, it's terrific. All right. I have two questions. First of all, do you have another full circle moment?
I think that experience with the being downtown in those two is one. Certainly, coming back to Jacksonville in and of itself was a full circle moment because I had, when I left to go off to law school and grad school, I was always going to come back and practice law. And then I went off into government and, nonprofits and lived all over the place. And then when I, was on the alumni board and then the board of trustees, I said, okay, I'm never going to come back to Jacksonville, but, this is my way of coming back. I'll get to come back, 5, 6 times a year for meetings and stuff like that. So, when I ultimately did come back to Jacksonville, that was that really was a full circle moment, and also going back to the university where I had spent four great years, and very very full circle, uh, and I just absolutely love being in Jacksonville today. I think we are in its city.
Mm.
Another aspect of the personal is I just love getting to live Jacksonville, going to Florida theater, being able to walk on the beach, doing all these things, and then seeing the city just with all these possibilities coming to life. And I would love to be around 20 years from now just to see what Jacksonville has
Mm.
become
Mhm.
because it's going to be amazing.
Ooh, that's good. I love our city too. What maybe there's 2 questions in here. What do you feel like you've left the legacy you want to leave?
You know, gosh, in terms of Jacksonville Speech and Hearing Center, I think that legacy is that the organization has the resources, it has the leadership at both the staff level and the board level that there's no longer ever, there's no longer an issue that this vital, critically important community resource is going to be there and it's going to grow and it's going to serve more people. We're up to serving about 5,000 people now. I think this year it'll be like closer to 6,000. So that, you know, just think about that many people getting the gift of communication, one that is going to change their lives, whether they're preschoolers getting ready to start school, or whether they're adults and they can't hear in the jobs that they're in, or they're disconnected from their family and just really frustrated and giving up, but giving them that connection, just incredible. So, I think that will be it, having all that in place will be a legacy. Certainly, if we ever get to that, every kid in Northeast Florida is screened and given the speech therapy and the hearing solutions. That will be, that would be the ultimate.
And what about in your personal life?
My personal life, what will be my legacy? Gosh, three phenomenal children, all doing great things. I talked about Navy Officer Jim in Jacksonville, but Maddie, ICU nurse, Emory Hospital,
Mm.
actually was just incredible during she was on the first line of the COVID crisis at
Yeah.
UF Health and then son Chris in Indianapolis. And he's just got so many, he's kind of like the mayor of Costco. And then, he's very heavily into music and everything else. So, three great kids, three great grandkids, and certainly I think a lot of people that have um, uh, chosen to give back and to serve because of the encouragement that I might have helped along the way.
Awesome. And what do you wanna say to us listeners to yeah, what are your words?
You know, just just live every day to the fullest, and every day look to see what you can do to make somebody's day better, somebody's life better. If we all do that, we'll be a much better community. We'll be a much better world.
Amen. Thank you for being here today. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
bravely sharing. Thank you for going there, for being vulnerable. Thank you for all your work, for your advocacy. Thank you for, I just feel that there will be specifically some men. I guess my prayer is that some fathers and sons will hear this and they will be able to be as brave as you were and
Well,
love well, take responsibility, and move forward in love. I don't know. I just thank you for that. It was really powerful for me to hear the way that you chose that. So, yeah.
well, thank you. I hope none of my family members feel like I divulged too much on their behalf, but I have really enjoyed being your guest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. And we might have to have part 2 with the vulnerability. Don't forget that.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Kristen.